Hi, this is Pam. We're just checking to see if you guys can see the agenda we put up. Hi, we're going to start in about 1 minute, and we're just checking to see if you can see the agenda that we put up.
I could, but now I can't.
Okay. Now can you?
Let me try again here.
Okay, she's going to try again.
There.
Can you see it now?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Great.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, it's 1:30, and we got a good group already today, and thank you for getting in and getting on for this meeting of the District Data Collection Group. And we just have one more before the data conference, so we kind of have a lot to cover. We have two we've gone over these two new data elements, the directory information block and the expected high school graduation. This is kind of the definition is the format that we have in the new advisor data elements document, because these will be added for 2018-19. But the advisor data elements document that we'll be reviewing today is 2017-18, so these will not be included. I think there are a few people that may not have been in the meeting last time, so I was just going to open it up to see if anybody had any questions or comments on the two new data elements. I'm not seeing any chat either, so I'm not sure that, you know, if you have any questions or comments on these, they have been reviewed before, but you're welcome to email me at pam.tagart@nebraska.gov. So if you have any questions or concerns about anything that we talk about today, you're welcome to email me. So Jill can't stay with us very long today. Jill is here in the room, and Jeannie Nichols and Denise Schuyler from the help desk. So we're here for the District Data Collection Group meeting, and we're going to go on to number 2 on our agenda, which is to review the advisor data elements document.
Anna has a question. Is the expected high school graduation requirement?
9 through 12 and only if needed is the response on that. Anna was asking, is the expected high school graduation required on all students, just 9 through 12, or only if needed? And it's only if needed.
On 9 through 12
on 9 through 12 only, yep. Okay, so we'll move on. Oh, it says I can barely hear you. So I'm going to pull the
phone closer. I tried turning it up too. I hope that helps, Jenny.
Okay. The next, number 2 on our agenda today is to review the advisor data elements 2017-18 draft. I sent it out I guess Jeannie sent it out last Friday. Have anybody had a chance to go over it? If you have any questions? Okay, it's very similar to our student data or student reporting instructions.
If you give me a second, I can probably pull it up.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. We don't need it. It's too big.
Okay.
We tried to make it similar and include some of the guidance that we had in our student reporting instructions, our student template reporting instructions. But it is different, and it's really more geared toward what your student information system vendors need because you may not have as many needs related to this document because it will just come automatically from your student information system.
However, this is Jill. One of the things we did try to do in this document was to provide a definition for each of the elements, or if you're wondering what it is. It also includes the data sets that you might be submitting to us. However, depends on how your particular vendor has implemented that element, whether or not it would be included in your SIS. So, classroom position has 4 different particular items. However, your vendor may give them different names and simply submit the codes or the values that are in this document. So we can't guarantee there's a one-to-one relationship to what you'll see in your student information system and what you'll see in this document. But you should have some way of tying each of these elements to something in your SIS in order to know that the right data is being submitted into NSSRS. Now, Anna has asked if we could ask for the natural keys. Anna, I think that'd be a good idea, but I think the better document for that would be the advisor interchange requirements document. We do plan on continuing to maintain that document for the vendors particularly. And so that's something that we will look into in that document. I don't think it's going to be in this document because we don't focus on the keys in this document. And it's really, I think, more of a requirement to the vendors to implement the right data that is needed in order to do a delete than it is for the school districts.
So, Jill, will there be any deletes in Advisor?
Well, the intention is that the student information systems have implemented the necessary changes in order to have, if you make a delete from your student information system because it was no longer there, that the student information system should do the correct delete into Advisor. However, we may find that there are some times that NDE needs to be contacted, and then we will have to get an ETL developer here involved. And yes, Anna, the districts can have access to that document. We will put it out on the Advisor. We're going to have an Advisor resources page. We've already started it, much like the NSSRS resources page. This Advisor data elements document will go out there. We will also put the Advisor interchange requirements document out there, probably with a caveat that not everybody does need it, and that we don't want it to confuse some of the users. I still think this data elements will be where the majority of users will get their information. It's really our more advanced users that would be able to utilize that interchange document. But yeah, we could put it out there also. Our goal would be to have it out there before the data conference. So when we did this document, we did try to group things together into what we consider to be natural groups of data. Some of those groups were informed by the different interchanges of data that the student information systems are submitting into the ODS. So if you're wondering where a particular element is, the biggest thing I could tell you would be to do search through the document if you can't find it. Most of the, we're going to be putting it out there in PDF form. PDF has the ability to search, type in the name that you're familiar with. Another thing that is going to be upcoming is additional guidance on some of these areas. The first one that we're hoping to get out will be one on discipline. We are planning on putting together some additional guidance for that, particularly since districts are not at this point familiar with submitting student-level discipline information. And that will be a requirement for 2018-19 into the ODS. We're also going to have a couple of sessions out at the data conference specifically on submitting discipline information, both your general discipline information that would be used to replace the current CDC report of suspensions and expulsions, and the special education discipline information that would be used to replace that collection in the portal. And we'll have some people from special education in that session also. But otherwise, you know, we tried to group it. Some of the groupings are very familiar as far as like the different programs. Others are a little bit different. For example, there's one called transcripts. But if you look at all of the element in transcripts, all of them are used for the dashboard. And that's one thing I also want to bring up. If you noticed, we do put a use for each of those elements, whether or not it is used for state reporting purposes. If it's used for state reporting purposes, it's considered to be NDE data, just like your current data that you submit to NSSRS. If it is only used for dashboard purposes, at this point, it's not considered to be NDE's data. And if it were to become NDE's data, it would probably need to go through this group and some other committees here at the department. However, that being said, I may have made a mistake. If you see one of those uses that you think we've got marked wrong, please let us know. You know, we've each gone through this numerous times, but you know how it is when you read a document so many times, you start to miss things. So if you see anything in this document you think needs to be changed, needs better clarification, we're kind of hoping we can use you guys as another check on this before it actually goes from draft to final form.
And also on state reporting, if it's marked for state reporting, it's required if your district, you know, has that program or whatever, you know, that piece of data. So if it's marked state reporting, that would be considered required.
Yeah, I think about the only element that is marked state reporting that's not technically required is the local ID, just like in our current NSSRS. It's advised so that we can display it in the advisor validation website and help you when you're doing your data checks, but it technically isn't required. But yeah, pretty much everything else, if it applies to that student or to your district, then it is required. Questions, comments, concerns? I don't see anything. And again, if you have any more that come up later, you find things, changes you think need made, I think just go ahead and send those on to Pam. You already have her email address. And then we'll take all of those notes and stuff we get from you guys and make the necessary updates to the document from that.
And we do have one more meeting before the data conference because this, we hope to have the 18-19 version available at that time. So we may make those changes in the 18-19 version. We'll see, you know, this one is, you know, kind of almost old at this point. So, and at the data conference, we do try to deal with things coming up for 18-19. So. Okay. I don't see anything on the chat, or I haven't heard anybody come in on the voice. So we'll go on to number 3. We've started to get a few things coming in on related to advisor on our help desk email and ticket system. Just wanted to remind you that the help desk cannot help you with advisor issues. We have to be separated right now because there's just too much going on in both areas, especially at the year end. So all NSSRS tickets and help desk requests should go through your normal process through the NDE portal and the help desk request, or an email to the help desk, or a voicemail, as you do now. But for advisor, anything for advisor really needs to go to advisorhelp@nebraskacloud.org, and that's in a ticket system too, a JITBIT ticket system, and a different team will help you with those. Once we are able to be done with NSSRS, well, actually, as of July 1, we'll probably be switching over to one email system for help desk tickets. but for right now and through the year end, we would like to keep them separate so that we can make sure that things are getting handled as quickly and efficiently as possible. So are there any questions or concerns about that? Okay, this is going to be a quick meeting. Jill already talked a little bit about the student level discipline will be required. It is currently optional for 17-18, but will be required for 18-19. And I think for the most part, as I remember, most of it it will be required because there is a state reporting component, and Jill mentioned the two things that it will replace: the CDC suspension expulsions collection and the special ed discipline collection that is in the data collection tab. The data elements, we've had some questions about that, are listed in the data elements data elements document on section 9 currently. So if you have any questions, or if your administrator or anyone has questions or concerns about the discipline data and what we're collecting, those data elements are identified there. And I know we've had some districts that are concerned about that, and they've asked, well, what are you going to use it for, and what are the data elements? So today we're sharing that with you. The section 9 has the discipline data that we're collecting in 17-18, but it is optional. It will be required in 18-19, and we are going to be using them to replace the CDC suspensions, expulsions collection, and the SPED discipline collection. I don't know if any of you guys actually fill out that SPED discipline report, but it's pretty confusing and hard to kind of go through, because you literally have to report the same thing kind of in different, cut and sliced in different ways. So it is very difficult for the people involved to report that. So are there any questions or concerns about that? And again, if you come up with some after this meeting, you can email me. But are there any that anyone would like to bring up right now?
And I will say that when we, oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Angela.
I guess I'm just want to make sure that I understand this correctly, in that when you're talking data elements, you're talking about having EdFi for next year be set up and ready to go from our student systems to report to EdFi, correct? And so that it meets your state data elements? Yes,
because we will not have NSSRS for 18-19. NSSRS will be completed June 30th, technically, for the 17-18 school year, but there will be some collections in the fall for the follow-up. So all our data for 18-19, we will have the initial year of collecting the data through Advisor.
okay, because in our student system, as of right now, we have what it's set up standardized district level, so it's not by building, and so we just want to make sure that we clarify that with our vendor, that some of us districts may be different, we might be the same, I'm not sure, because for us it's when we created a code for maybe one of your data elements might be like a behavior, like a threat code or something that we have. We want to make sure that they jive. Again, it's at a district level, not by building. So I guess I just want to make sure I get that ironed out before 18-19.
Do you have any comments on that, Jill? Just work with their vendor on that?
Yeah, because the disciplines are assigned at the building level, I believe that all the discipline records are building level and not district level, but I'd have to go back and double check the interchange requirements document on that.
Okay.
I believe it's school level.
Okay.
But, I mean, more than anything there, it's, you know, the school that the district is enrolled at, the student is enrolled at is what we're looking for.
Yeah, I'm just trying to draw lines and connections to make sure that, you know, what our vendor's pulling, you know, we don't lose that connection. You know what I mean? It's just kind of like, we have it set up so it works our way, and now we're going to have to change everything so it works the way the vendor pulls it.
Yeah, what vendor do you have?
Infinite Campus.
Okay.
And the reason why we had it district level is because no one could create these one-off, you know, behavior codes. Everybody matches.
Yeah. Well, I think you know, Infinite Campus is going to have a way to implement the behavior codes that are, at least a way for you to map to the behavior codes that are in Advisor.
Right, and again, we're at district level, not by building, so we'll have to go and probably change that if that is how they're going to pull it. I'll have to visit with them about that.
Yeah. And if you want someone from NDE to participate in some of those conversations, I would recommend contacting Max Reiner.
Okay.
And if you just send a ticket into JITBIT, Max will pick it up. He's usually the one who checks a lot of those.
The advisor.
And that's that.
Yeah, the advisor ticking system to the advisor help at nebraskacloud.org. If
Okay,
you want
great.
some help talking to Infinite Campus about those.
Okay, great. Thank you.
So Anna had a question. It says, so you haven't had a change in reporting requirements that would require individual data collection, but rather to replace the CDC collection? Well, no, not exactly. The commissioner actually has used his authority to require this student level discipline. And it just so happens that it will help us to replace the CDC collection and the SPED discipline collection. So that's my understanding of how this was implemented. If you have any questions on that, I can get that information solidified from my supervisor or Dean Folkers and find out for sure how that was. But my understanding is that the commissioner used his authority to require the discipline data at the student level, and that it just so happened to help us replace the CDC collection for suspension, expulsion, and the SPED discipline collection.
And I can tell you right now, there's actually also a bill in the
state bill.
legislature.
Yeah, but
There's
it
a bill in the
collects a couple, yeah, but that also collects restraints and seclusion.
Oh, yeah. That bill is much more
and the
involved, but I do think that we're
Gun-Free
going to
Act
start getting, if we don't have this at student level, we're starting to get the pressure from the legislature to have even what we're getting. But yeah, I'm really hoping that bill itself doesn't pass because, well, and we even put in our notes to this bill that it'd probably be, I think, 2021 before we'd be able to have that information by the time we synthesized the bill, ran it through all the necessary places, and then got it implemented into Advisor. So if anybody's not read that bill, you probably don't want to. It'd probably give you heartburn.
Gives us heartburn.
Yeah.
That bill's pretty generic in its writing too, so there's a lot of details. Because, well, one question I had too is, you know, currently, I guess our districts know to pull that discipline data from, like, if they got a kid contracted out, but like that restraint seclusion data, that gets reported to the OCR by the contracted entity, not the public school.
Okay.
So just FYI, there's restraints and seclusion data. We might have a little bit more data there that needs to make sure it makes it back to the district if that's supposed to come in from the district now.
Well, I'm just
right
really
now-
hoping this. I'm just personally really hoping this bill doesn't pass.
or it passes with a 3-year implementation date.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah.
That'd be nice. That doesn't happen very often.
No, but I know, like I said, Matt did put in our response to it that it would be 2021, I think, before it'd be able to be implemented.
Okay, any other questions about the discipline data? And again, if you have any questions that you'd like to forward to my email, I will do the research I need to for whatever questions that you have, or have someone respond to you. Okay, we're going to go on to number 5 then, if there aren't any other questions. And this is about advisor validation, and I'm glad Jill's still here. We are going to have a similar application like we do for NSSRS validation for advisor validation, because we can't, again, put all the errors into your student information system. We can ask, or we can tell vendors what things we're checking, but we can't require that they do that, but we can also throw errors. And the reason some of the, I don't know if all of you know, but the reason we have some of these errors is because we need to report this for either a federal or state requirement. And if we don't have the data we need, we have to try to figure out, well, how can we, what bucket do we put it in? And if we don't have those, all the, like if we don't have race, ethnicity, or if we don't have gender or whatever, we don't know the student, so we can't, for us to guess would be not very accurate, of course. And just when you think about 305,000 students, that's just crazy, That's why we need the data, and the required things are very important that they be filled in accurately. So with the advisor validation, we are still in the process of putting up all the reports. The team has worked really hard and gotten a lot of the fall ones up, and I think they've gotten up some of the student lookups too, right?
Yep, some of the student lookup by demographics is out there. We're working on the Fed lookup right now. We're actually also working on an enhancement to the errors and warnings that would allow districts to put in explanations for some of these that maybe we're flagging as an error, but either you can no longer change, or is it really an error for you? And there'll be more information on all of that out of the data conference, again, April 16th and 17th in Congress.
And also, what I also wanted to talk about is, this is the 17-18 school year is technically supposed to be a parallel year for an SSRS and advisor, but we realized we weren't maybe as prepared as we needed to be to fully implement that, and also because a lot of the schools weren't on yet. So the fall kind of slipped away and we weren't able to do much validation and comparison. But we're hoping with the year end 17-18, and again, we're still working on the reports for this, for the year end, but we hope to have them in place hopefully somewhere around the data conference or shortly thereafter. Our team is working on them really hard, and we would like to work with you, and we are hoping we'll get some NDE staff here to also work with you on their program data to do some comparisons between NSSRS and advisor to see why there are different things being pulled, and what we might have an error in our reports, or it might be an issue with the advisor interchange requirements, and we will be working through that with you. But it's very important that, if possible, you can put some people on the year end doing that comparison, so that you're in a good spot for 18-19 implementation in the fall. Because we just may not have a lot of time to do a lot of tweaking of things in that fall time frame if we don't have some of these bugs worked out at the year end. So as much time as you can spend on that comparison, we'd really appreciate it. And we do hope to have some people assigned here at the department to work with you on their particular program data. And, you know, maybe we'll find out we had some errors in NSSRS that Advisor is cleaning up. That's our hope. But we also may have some issues that we need to work out. So that'll be a big push, and it won't be the help desk team doing that. It will be the Advisor team and some other people from NDE. So again, if you have any questions when you're doing that comparison, they should go to Advisor Help. Because the help desk really has to stay focused on NSSRS and getting the year-end data in with good quality so that you can do a good and valid comparison.
And, you know, I have seen a number of tickets come in through the JITBID system, through the Advisor Help email address already. We thank you guys that are working on these comparisons. We do appreciate it. We try to get your responses to you as soon as we can. Sometimes it takes us some time to look into, you know, why a particular element isn't matching up. But we do appreciate the work that some of you have already done on those comparisons. It has been really helpful for us in getting us to get some of this information and get some of these reports done correctly. We are also currently working on a number of attendance reports, because as you know, attendance is being reported in a much different manner, starting with Advisor. There will also be a session at the data conference, specifically about how we're going to calculate attendance and what some of the requirements are, kind of who reports what on just attendance. We'll have a session at that. So look for that when you get your agenda for that conference.
And it isn't out there yet, so
No.
we're working on it. We're getting close. Also, I wanted to mention about the expectations for the year end is Jenny couldn't be here today, but I think she would want me to also mention that it will be, we will be having work days for Advisor, and they will also include some of this comparison, you know, show you some of that and walk you through it. So we will have the Advisor team that does the work days also working with you on this to kind of show you how to, you know, and also they'll learn from you if we have some things we need to tweak. So we really appreciate your participation in those work days. It's a learning thing for both of us. So, and it has been with NSSRS. That's why we decided to continue them. Any input on the Advisor validation and expectations for the year end?
I'm sorry, to back up to the discipline data, is that going to be like a year in, like it all has to be submitted by the end of the year, like it is today?
As far as I know, yes. I haven't heard anything where we are going to be required to have the ability to do any reporting on that in any interim fashion.
Okay. Because that'll be important, because getting principals to go back and make sure their data entry is complete is sometimes an interesting task.
I would say definitely for the first year. And again, if we start requiring it to be on a more immediate fashion, I think it's something, again, that would need to go through this group and get feedback before that would be required.
Jill,
Go ahead.
this is Peggy.
Hi, Peggy.
Hi, how are you? Happy Valentine's Day from Valentine, everybody.
Oh.
My husband actually bought me a real gift that doesn't plug in or goes in the oven, so that was good. Anyway.
Hey. Is it edible?
No, beautiful pearl earrings. So anyway,
Oh my
Oh.
God.
the discipline thing. Ever since the start of the pilot on Advisor, I have expressed some concern about discipline being collected at the student level because of in terms of due process.
Yeah.
We don't want stuff reported that we found out after the fact. Maybe party A wasn't as honest about it, and party B really didn't do anything they shouldn't have done. And so having that not be collected, you know, in the overnight process every night, I think is a very important thing to do. That, or there's got to be some very intense training with the people who enter that stuff into your SIS to make sure that you're not reporting anything to the state until you know the facts of the situation, and that there aren't any repercussions later. So
Well,
that's
and correct me if I'm wrong, in PowerSchool, you can turn off particular submissions of data until you're ready.
yes.
And I definitely think that discipline would be one of those that you could simply leave turned off until, you know, the end of the year when you feel more secure that the data is valid. The other thing that I am personally going to advocate for here as a department is that when we pull the data back to us, I'm going to advocate that we only pull back the aggregate data and we leave the student level data in the ODS, unless we do get more specific requirements to have that data available at the student level, especially this first year. Because I know that there are a lot of districts that are very concerned about providing to us this student level data on this. And again, one of the intentions is, you know, you take a look at that SPED discipline report right now, and it's kind of a pain. And, you know, we can really, if we can get this data in there, we can really simplify that report, because the whole reason it's a pain is there's so many different ways of reporting the data. Obviously, if legislative bills pass that require us to have it at student level, that's different. But it's one of the things I still need to talk to Dean and have him talk to Dr. Bloomstead about having the data in the department only at aggregate level. We'll see what happens there. I'm hoping to kind of know more about that before the data conference. But, you know, again, our intention was not to suddenly have all this extra data we could use for nefarious purposes, but it was to be able to report out what we're already having to report out in the data that we currently use those two reports for.
And there is a statutory requirement on on discipline data, but it does not refer to student level. So I'm not sure what, you know, again, the commissioner used his authority to make that required for 2018-19 is my understanding. Yeah. And so, but there is a requirement for us to have that data in a statute on suspensions, expulsions in particular, and probably for the SPED discipline stuff too as a federal reporting requirement.
Yes, those are reporting requirements. So
Right. Yeah, I mean, I understand that it needs to be reported. I just worry about what might happen years down the road with that information. You know, some kid does something stupid in high school and it winds up ruining their adult life because of the information got out in a system that would have been confidential otherwise, because the school didn't report it before at the student level. I just have concerns, you know. I just feel it's important to voice it every chance I get. So I'll get off.
I do have a question.
It's, you know, I think it's just like, you know, if you take a look at, you know, SPED data, you know, we have a statutory federal requirement and it's simply a duty and obligation to keep that data secure and not release anything that is student level. And I think, you know, it's going to be the same thing for discipline data, you know, no more, no less.
One other thing to kind of think about, I don't know that it applies as much because you don't require the incident description, but we have had cases where the court or a judge has ordered the record sealed. And in those cases, you know, our districts have some different policies, but usually what it means is it has to be removed from the student system and put in an envelope and sealed literally.
Okay.
And sometimes it happens within the same school year. Sometimes it's really old data. Those things happen. So I don't, you know, if we're not uploading descriptions, I don't know if that applies here or not. I just wanted to bring it up because
Yeah, and in incident description, you'll see is potentially dashboard only. It is not state reporting, so it would not be NVE data.
Okay. But that's just something for districts to consider before they just go uploading stuff.
I do not know the LB number.
Angie, we'll have to get, we'll put it out to the team when we know the LB number on that discipline bill that we thought you might want to watch. We'll get that out to you.
And Christy, you're asking about the agenda for the data conference. So we are working hard on that. We probably a couple more weeks. We're still trying to get it all figured out. However, note on the first day on Monday, it will be totally all general sessions about advice.
Yeah, and I was going to discuss that in number 7 below. So I wanted to kind of not finish up on the advisor validation because there's another little thing that I think is going to be hopefully better and also give your district admins some comfort. We're looking at on the validation reports that we think are that need to have sign-offs, that we're going to actually put it, we're going to put it on the report itself, so the district admin will not necessarily approve the collection, they will approve the report. So for example, they will approve membership. They will approve student summary attendance. Oh, yep, we just found it too. It's LB 1056 on the, but we'll put it out there for you guys. So anyway, I think that will be better. There are only a few things we need to really have sign-offs on, and I think it's the membership and the student summary attendance and probably the SPED counts. So we're hoping to put that on the validation report, so your administrator, when they approve those, then they know what they're approving, number one, because they always say, well, what am I approving anyway? And this way it'll be more specific and they will know they are approving it. And I think it'll also mean more to them. And we are going to have sessions at the data conference about roles and responsibilities, because we really want you guys to have a team to support you. And so many of you are getting the responsibility of doing it all. And then when things go bad, you're also held responsible. And that is not fair or right. You guys need to, you know, if an administrator is signing off on something, they should know that that is right. And they should have the appropriate, you know, information to know that it is right. So we're hoping to, you know, narrow down what the requirements are for sign-offs, but also to attach them to something that might be more meaningful to your administrator. And that way, you know, again, he can give those duties off, but we want to caution you in taking that on, because we have run into several situations where a data steward is, we've even seen somebody get fired. And it's just not fair. So we want to really make sure that people know what their roles and responsibilities are, so when they, you know, they can hopefully get those set up appropriately so that you guys aren't always held responsible for everything. So I know that's difficult in your small district, but it should be even better for the district admins to know what things are right or wrong. So anyway, we'll see how it goes. I know that it's kind of one of those things that is difficult to enforce. So anyway, oh, is that a clapping? Is that clapping? Applause, I hope. We got several thank yous on the chat. So
may I add something to the advisor validation? I'm sorry.
what was that?
May I add a comment for the advisor validation part before we move on?
Yes, Dan.
Sorry. I just want to say that I am personally, I don't know about other districts, very nervous about, because for me, the parallel year has been non-existent because we ran into 3 separate major issues with updates that PowerSchool made that broke aspects for us producing all of our data properly to the ODS. And the last one just got fixed for us. Actually, no, there's still one outstanding, but the 2 major ones just got fixed in version 11.0.4.1. And we've just been waiting. We've been waiting months for it to be fixed. So I'm nervous because I haven't had a chance to validate, and I have a lot of data to validate. So I don't know if anybody else is in that same boat as me, but I am very nervous about this because this parallel year, which I was expecting to be able to validate all along, I haven't had a chance to yet.
I think that that is a concern. I would encourage you to make sure that if you participate in the advisor meetings, that you express those concerns to the team there, because they are the ones who, are going to, be moving advisor forward, and they need to hear that from you. My problem is I'm still on the NSSRS side, and, I have those concerns too in some ways, but also because I haven't been as involved in advisor, I don't know, when I start to talk about my concerns, they seem to always have an answer. So I hope that they can have an answer for you, anyone that is having those concerns. But I really think make sure you're participating in those advisor meetings, the district level meetings. I think they're every 2 weeks, right, Jeannie?
They're once a month now.
Once a month now, okay.
They're on the Google Calendar, the advisor Google Calendar.
Okay, make sure you're participating in that, or make sure you put it in writing to the advisor help at nebraskacloud.org, or you're also welcome to submit them to, you can send them to me and I will forward them on if you think you would like them to go to my supervisor, Matt Hastings, or Dean Folkers. But I think at this point we've done some switching on, and I'm going to get into that in my number 8, but I'll talk a little bit more about that. There's been some changes. So if you think it needs to come to the elevation of somebody like Matt Hastings, definitely you're welcome to contact him too. But I think if you would just make sure that the advisor team is hearing them, and I hope we have plenty of time in the fall to work through all these issues. I think it's a valid concern.
Sorry to interrupt.
Yes, just to let you know, Max Reiner is part of the advisor team, and he has been going out on some of the work days for advisor. Any other things on advisor validation? Okay, we're at 2:18. I'm going to try to, on number 6, if you look on our website for NSSRS resources, we have several documents for cohort, and some of them are really outdated. And so we're trying to figure out what documentation is useful to you in terms of the cohort. Some of them, like there's one called Guidance for Graduation Cohort version 5.0, which was updated on April 7th of 2017. That one we will have to keep. It is really long. It is somewhat technical, but that one we're going to have to keep. But there are several other ones that are quick references that we'll probably be getting rid of because we won't have NSSRS anymore, so we won't necessarily have that type of interface anymore. There's one called Expected Graduation Year Lookup Tool, and it's a quick reference guide too, I think. That one will probably be gone. But then there's one called Current and Future Methods for Calculating Graduation Rates, and that one is way outdated. The one that I am kind of wondering about is the cohort graduation checklist. It's one that Rachel did years and years ago. But if school districts are using that, let me know. Otherwise, the only one we'll probably update is going to be the Guidance for Graduation Cohort version 5.0. The one on the U.S. Department of Education High School Graduation Non-Regulatory Guidance, that one will still be in effect, but it's currently messed up in our, although I think Jeannie might have fixed it just recently.
I fixed it, yes.
Okay, it's fixed up now. But there's also a new one added that would be the ESSA, related to ESSA and the graduation cohort requirements. But I think all the other ones will go away. But if you are using that cohort graduation checklist, let me know so that we can look at seeing it if we can update that one. But it's pretty old at this point. So, Dan, I see some chat from you. Oh, for Angie. Okay, for Angie. Okay. So on the cohort, I'm not going to go through those documents a lot, but I just wanted to let you kind of know or ask you what documentation you use. The cohort, you know, prior to, I think, 2018 will be based on the old high school let's see, it's called High School Graduation Rate Non-Regulatory Guidance. But starting with 2018, I think it'll be based on the ESSA requirements. But the 5th, 6th, and 7th for the previous years will still be based on the non-regulatory guidance for December 22nd, 2008. So I know that cohort is just so confusing sometimes and stuff. And when they make changes, it just really adds craziness to all of this. But we're trying the best we can to get you documentation that is useful. So, and if you have any ideas of better documentation, I'd love to hear about it. You guys are always great about that. And we always try to give you, if we can, some time to review the documents and help us to make them better. Any other input on that? You can email me if you have any questions or any input on that cohort documentation. Okay, we're going to move to number 7. As Jeannie mentioned, the conference is April 16th and 17th, and it will be a data conference. We discussed that last time. And as Jeannie shared with you, the very first day is going to be a team day where everybody will be in the same room hearing the same thing from the first session to the end. The last session will be a vendor session, and you will go to your particular, your vendor if that vendor is presenting or has a session. Some vendors may be so small they are already working with their districts and have that relationship, so they may choose not to have a session. But we're pretty sure we will have a session for Power School and Infinite Campus and any other of the vendors that have bigger groups. So, but we're really hoping that you guys have asked us. That you guys have asked us to make sure that everybody hears the same thing. And so that's what we're trying to do with that first day session, so that if your administrator, your SPED director, or whoever, whatever team you can pull together that will support you in the advisor transition, we need them all at that first day for sure. And some of the sessions will be sort of a higher level overview of advisor, but on the second day we will have a lot of detailed sessions to get at hopefully the nitty-gritty of some of the issues that we think that might come up with the transition to advisor. We do have a name for the conference. It's Bridging Connections NSSRS to Advisor Conference. So that's the whole focus of the conference. And we kind of have had this, we've had a data conference, and then we've also had the AQuest conference. There will be a few AQuest sessions, but it will not be the focus of the conference. So they will just be some detailed sessions on the second day. We will try to record as much as we can that first day. So hopefully that'll help you in case there are people that were not able to attend. That is our plan. But day 2, those sessions will be hit and miss whether they can be recorded or not. Not all the rooms have the ability for recording in them. So we'll do what we can. Also, the conference people may not be able to, spread out to all the different rooms, even if we have the ability to record. So, Jeannie, did you have some input on that?
I think only the first day is going to be recorded, is from what I understand.
Yeah, I think the first day for sure.
Until after the conference, because we prefer people to be there in person.
Yeah, and then we'll see whether any other, because if they're in the one room that you can record in, we might still be able to do some other ones. But right now, the main one that we want to record is that first day.
So we need about 2 more weeks, and we'll have the conference agenda out, and you'll be able to see everything.
And we're hoping that, it's even a little earlier than usual, but we knew this one was so important that you have a team there, that we really jumped on when we found out we were going to be able to have a data conference. And we knew that you guys have some of you have maybe not attended because it wasn't a data conference. We really worked hard on getting moving this forward quickly. It's just right now we're running into some issues because we have so many presentations, but it's the same people doing all the presentations that, not always, but we're having trouble with some of our overlap. And so we're trying to find some people who could maybe fill in if we have some overlap and things like that, because we feel like all the sessions we've identified are very important. If you know of any sessions that you would like to know more about, if you want to email me those, we can make sure they're covered in the conference. But we think we have a really good mix of things, and maybe some of the issues that you might be concerned about, especially like Dan, what you were bringing up, and Peggy. We are going to do a detailed session about discipline. We are going to do a detailed session about attendance, because those are so important, and for state aid and, are probably your biggest concerns. So we want to make sure that you and your administrator know and understand how things will be calculated. Do you have any issues or concerns about the data conference? I think the plan is, and Jeannie, you may know more about this, but they are actually going to set up the tables on day 1 by district with some, hopefully, I don't know how they'll be labeled, but they really are planning to, we want you to even sit together so that there might be a time that you can sit and discuss some of the things that we're talking about. Or maybe if within the discussion at your table, your school district, you can ask the questions at the end of that session. So, you know, hopefully we're really focusing on this whole team, because without the parallel year as complete as we'd like it to have been, we need you guys to have help, because you're going to, at year end in particular, you're going to have an SSRS and advisor, and you can't do it all. So getting people to know more about it at year end and then be able to help you in the fall will be critical, I think, to the success of the fall collection for advisor. So we need you to have a team. You can't do it all.
So the tables will be set up by school district teams in your ESU. So they'll be set up by school district, and everybody from the same ESU in that school district will sit like in a row, where we're still working on the table arrangements, but that's the plan.
Very good.
I fully expect to be sitting in the corner facing the wall.
Well, we just don't want you to ask too many questions. No, we really do. No, we really appreciate everybody's questions, because they really help us to work through things. But Dan, you just gotta, we'll try to find a place for you in the corner.
Front and center.
Sounds good.
I'll take the other corner.
Since I'm not attached to a district anymore, Dan, I'll sit with you.
All right, then.
Well, you could still probably sit with the ESU group there, though, there, Peggy.
Oh,
So.
I'm sure. Well, you know, the Power School Cooperative serves 5 or 6 different ESUs, so how would, you know, they would get insulted if I chose, so I'll just sit with Dan.
Okay. Right. Well, you know, we're really looking forward to it. There's a lot of excitement from our team's perspective, because we were really shocked that they let us do this, and especially with the budget cuts and everything. We're going to have our whole team there, because you got to understand the NSSRS Help Desk, which right now we have a temporary person, and Denise and we don't know a lot about advisors, so we're going to be learning right along. I mean, you guys probably know more about it than we do, and so we're going to be learning and presenting, because there are things that will stay the same, and so you'll hear about that too. And Denise is actually going to a conference in March for the Unique ID, and so we're hoping that we can get some updates on that for the process, and maybe some of the tools that will help us to continue to use that product. So we're really excited about this conference, and so it'll be people that you've probably either worked with at work days or have worked with. Oh gosh, we're at 2:30 already. Okay, quickly, other issues. I just wanted to bring up that the Who Reports What document is, I just got it approved to move forward with, so that will be presented at the data conference. If we get it done sooner, we will get it out to you guys to look at and review. It does address wards now, so I'm really excited about that. I hope that'll help you guys with some of the questions and issues that you've had. Our next meeting will be March 14th, and it's the last meeting before the data conference. I would really like it if you guys have any issues or concerns that, based on what you've seen today, heard today. If you have any issues you'd like at the next meeting, please email me those, because I'm not sure how much of an agenda we'll have. But if we have some things, we will definitely have the meeting on March 14th. So, and there may come some things here, you know, as the legislature is moving through things, we may have some, we do have a bill out there to change the last Friday in September collection or account to October 1. So maybe I'll know some more about that. I don't know. It's in our NDE cleanup bill on some of the legislation. So, and oh, the other issue I wanted to share with you, there have been some changes in our organizational structure at NDE. I don't know how soon that'll be out in the public, or maybe it already is. you know, one of our supervisors in the past, well, our current supervisor has been Matt Hastings for a couple of years now. But our supervisor above Matt has always been Dean Folkers. Well, he will not be our supervisor at that level anymore. It'll be Brian Halstead, who's part of our legal team, but he will be our supervisor over Matt Hastings. And so that's a change for us. So that's the other issue I wanted to bring up. So I better close because it's 2:34, and I do appreciate you taking time. We did record this session, so we will put it out along with the information about the legislative bill 1056 that has to do with discipline, and any other things that we might have talked about today. So thank you for your attendance. We do appreciate all that you help us to sort out. So keep up the good work and participate in the advisor work days. And that way you'll get the help that you need, and we will also learn from you. So thank you. Have a great Valentine's Day. And we'll be talking to you hopefully March 14th, if not at the data conference April 16th and 17th. Bring a team. Bye. Will we also know who attended today?